Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for that introduction, and thank you for having me today. Um, I'm not much of a speech giver. It's not my style. Because I'm not a career politician. So I'll start out with saying that I think we have a crucial time in our country where I believe that we need some key issues that we have: reproductive rights, border security, and inflation, and modernizing Medicare. And so my focus is obviously we have some focus on the national stage, but our local community, being the first congressional district, we need to do some better things there. My opponent has not done much in the last 7 terms. He's brought no money back, and unfortunately, that's something that this district needs greatly. Um, we need to retain great teachers in this area. One of the things I think that we're lacking. We need to come up with a transit system that helps with our resources. At the same time, we have a beautiful waterway. I believe that fishermen and farmers and recreational activities are a huge part of that. And by tapping into those coastal strengths, we can create an economic opportunities while also protecting the environment. As a military veteran, a small business owner, a father and a son, and what I believe is a true patriot, I stand for America ideas. My service taught me that the value of honor, courage, and commitment, and I have a deep sense of duty. And it's one of the reasons why I decided to run was because I believe in I've served my country once, and I'm planning to serve it again. Being a small business owner showed me the importance of resilience and innovation and economic prosperity. And as a family man, I understand the values of strong bonds with the community. It's things that I think our very Constitution was written about. And as a taxpayer, I'm committed to responsible stewardship of public resources. I love this country more than life itself. In my candidacy, I pledge to uphold these principles of the Constitution, and I seek representation to represent you in Congress. As your next representative, I am dedicated to serving everyone, regardless of their views or affiliation. To me, one of the things that I have many problems with our current representation is that he does not represent everyone. He caters to the people who agree with him. And unfortunately, that's not the way being a representative, which the word itself says that, right? But I also feel like I want to use my heart, my mind, what people of Maryland want, and what's good for America with all my decision making. And my goal is to represent our community genuinely, bringing value to resources back home and working towards practical solutions that benefit both Maryland and America. But in short, I believe in service over people, or service over self, people over politics. As your next representative, I will be effective, responsive, and committed to representing all of us. Let's build a brighter future for our community, but let's make America better together. So God bless America, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Blane. Well, then with this time, we're going to take questions and hear some of your thoughts so you can tell us what kind of vision you have when you get into office. Jared, have people been tossing some questions in the chat?
I've gotten one so far. It was privately messaged to me. It says, well, first of all, thank you for joining this evening, Mr. Miller. Our first question is, given that gun violence is a public health crisis tearing apart this country and has had devastating impacts on our community like Cambridge, which has had 11 fatal shootings between 2020 and 2023, how would you as a congressman address the ongoing problems with gun violence to help families feel safe in their communities?
That's a great question. Those of you know that I am definitely not the normal, maybe I am what I would consider myself a moderate Democrat. So that being said, I believe in the Constitution, as I said in my speech. So with that being said, I believe in responsible gun ownership, first and foremost. I think that's a huge factor here. But one of the other things is if you look at the current news recently here, we've had the Anthony Brown bring up a case where the problem with this is that we're trying to, we have a headache and we want to cut off the head. And that's not the answer to the question. Gun violence is someone who's willing to commit gun violence. That comes from a place that they don't believe in society. I can come up with all the answers in the world, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to work, because the problem is that when you want to commit gun violence, you've taken the idea that you no longer believe in society and what society is, which is a mental health thing. And I think this is a bigger mental health problem than there is in anything. 98%, you can check the data on this, 98% of gun owners are responsible gun owners. They're not out taking their guns. They're law-abiding citizens. As I brought up about the Anthony Brown, we had some people I think last Christmas, break into gun stores and steal guns and sell them on the streets. Those are the type of gun laws that I personally think are the ones that help get this off, get the guns off the street, is the illegal selling of guns, the stealing of guns. There's so much to this that it's not just, okay, I went and bought a gun and I decided I've lost my mind today and I'm going to go shoot people. That's not the norm. And I unfortunately, when people come at me about that, I almost want to say, like, what there are good people every day that have guns. This isn't a gun problem. This is a people problem. And I've been trying to say this forever. But of course, you get a lot of pushback because somebody's going to tell you that they've had experiences and this and that. And I get that. I'm not saying that we don't, the gun laws that I would be willing to foster, and not only, but also champion, would be things like responsible gun ownership. Parents leave the guns laying around the house. The kid gets mad at school, goes to school and does something bad with it. That's a problem. The illegal selling of guns, the stealing of guns. These are huge problems in this country. And at the end of the day, I've said this before. I made a comment one time on Facebook, which not everybody liked, but David didn't kill Goliath with a gun. He killed it with a rock. And at the end of the day, people, and since the dawn of time, since we've been recording history, have been killing each other. So this is a people problem, and that's the best. I mean, again, I'm no rocket scientist here. So at the end of the day,
if you let me interrupt here, there's been a follow-up question related to this, I think, in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's from Judy Fleischman. I apologize if I butcher everyone's name tonight. Do you have any thoughts on how to better control crime in the area, specifically by juveniles? And this also comes from Dorchester County.
Well, that's a great, man. If I had that, I'd bottle it up and sell it, right? I mean, it would be the greatest feat in the world. I think kids today, unfortunately, I believe they're disassociated with society for some reason. We can sit here and blame it on tons of things. We could blame it on Grand Theft Auto. We could blame it on this. We could blame it on that, school, and bullying. And I don't have the answers for why kids act bad, right? Because trust me when I tell you, when I was a kid, I wasn't the model student of being a kid. I made my parents' hair gray. So, but what I would say is that I think there's parts of that comes back down to how we raise our children. And, again, that's a very subjective mentality. But I think that we need to get, there's a whole, and again, you can start to get into demographics. You can start to get into all these things. But again, I think a lot of it starts in school. I think we need to make sure that, I know it sounds cliche-ish, but the No Kids Left Behind thing, have people, interested in school and try to find the things that keep them their hands, what's the old saying, idle hands is the work of the devil. And I don't think that's too far off from the truth, right? So I don't know what makes a bad kid. I don't have that answer. Like I said, if I had that answer, I would sell it to every parent in the world. But I will tell you that I think a lot of it starts at home. I think it has to do with the fact that we don't necessarily believe in the morality that we used to have in this country. Maybe if we had, maybe that's a myth, and how we used to think that there was a morality. I think where people were doing bad things back when they didn't have TV and internet too. So again, it's about, like, I wake up every morning and I try my hardest to be the best person I can. So I think it starts with yourself, and I don't know that there's any laws that are going to create good kids or good people. I think we have to really believe in society. I really believe that. I'm sorry, sir.
I was going to say I want to keep it moving to other topics as well.
Yep.
Jared, you have another one there?
Yeah. Yeah, so next question comes from Talbot County. So I said I saw nothing from else from Dorchester. Dorchester, I added this first part in to make it relevant. Dorchester is currently the fourth largest county in Maryland by land area, but due to sea level rise and land subsidence, it is projected to become the 14th largest by the end of the century. During your 2022 run for county executive in Harford County, you stated that you are not a scientist and have no idea if climate change is real or not. Are these still your views? And as Congressman, how would you address and mitigate the impacts of flooding in Dorchester, Talbot, and across the Eastern Shore?
Well, I did say that, and I still kind of stand behind that. I'm not a scientist, so I can't pretend to know what is factual and what's not factual. These days with the internet, I've done a lot of research on this, and I've tried to understand it from the best of my ability. Again, I don't profess to be a in college or environmentalist or by no stretch of imagination. So, um, you know, I'm going to kind of veer from that specific top part of that topic and go into this. I'll tell you this. I think every person in this country should do their best to try to make their carbon footprint the least amount that it can, right? So with that being said, the data suggests that they're saying, whatever data that's from, is suggesting that all these things are happening. I would think, in my humble opinion, that we would start to really, I mean, what do they say, end of the century? So I'm assuming, almost 90 years from now. I don't know what's going to happen in 90 years from now. When I look at the weather and I look at the TV and I see, the last time we had this cold spell was 1953 or 1944. I think things happen from my holistic idea of things. I think things happen secularly, right? We have summer, we have fall, we have winter, we have spring. And I believe that's the same thing with how weather works. I don't have all the answers. I will definitely like to do the best that I can. But I also feel like there's climate change and the rising sea level issues. With the strong opinions of them, I believe that there is data that proves that there are things that are going on. But at the same time, I also believe that the agenda also is about, and you're not going to like this, but I'm going to say it anyway, is about the greed part of life, right? We're pushing these electric cars, we're pushing this, we're pushing that, and that's great for innovation, that's great for jobs, that's great for things like that. But I think that's what it's about. I don't think that like we hit the Titanic, we hit the iceberg and we're sinking. I think that we need to work on always trying to do better. Tomorrow we can't get rid of all the cars because we don't even have an electrical grid that could even support having electric car, all of us having electric cars. So I think over time, just like cars and planes and everything else of innovations, it'll come through time. And it's not, creating these unreasonable ways of what I think is not necessarily, even doable. We need to come up with better ways of doing it. And again, it's us working together. It's not just, you're not just America. Why is America always the one that has to be, we have to do it first, right? If you look at the carbon emission that happens, it's like carbon emissions or something like that in the entire world is like 0.04. And I believe that we're like 0.03 of it. America, the United States of America. There's other countries that are doing worse. I think it's a global problem, not a United States of America problem. So it's not just about us doing this. Of course, anything that comes across my desk that makes sense and has, true scientific, unbiased opinions, I'm absolutely 100% before it. But I'm not just going to sign something to make somebody who believes the world's ending just because they maybe want to sell an electric car. So that's kind of my feeling on that.
Jared, I'm guessing there are people who have follow-ups on that.
I'm sure there are.
Yeah, you can imagine that you're.
I actually do not see any follow-ups. I have a completely different question.
Well, hold on, Jared, please. I just want to make sure that I'm not against. I just want to make sure I wrap this up so that it's tight when I say this. I am 100%, like I said, I'm not against us doing better. What I'm against is things that are unreasonable, that are unattainable, in my opinion, to make something seem like it's getting. If you can't prove that it's doing better, then we're not obviously not doing anything. So I just want to make sure that that's, again, as I said, common sense legislation. My campaign is about common sense, and there's not a lot of common sense anymore, unfortunately. Sorry.
Thank
Jared, go
you.
ahead.
I'm actually going to flip these next two questions. I'm going to ask them both, but this one seems a little closer to the topic. This question is from Dorchester. It says, with recent attacks and laws that want to be passed against the LGBTQI community, how will you challenge and ensure their rights are protected?
Okay, can you say the first part? I didn't understand. I'm sorry, I did not.
Yes. Basically,
I'm deaf in one ear, just so you know. So I apologize. I can you please repeat that?
yeah. So with recent attacks and laws that want to be passed and have been passed against the LGBTQ community, how will you ensure their rights are protected?
Well, first and foremost, anybody who's passing a law against a specific group, that should be criminal in the first place. I say that because the Constitution doesn't call out Black rights, women rights, gay, lesbian rights. They're called rights. So, and from my perspective, every single person in this country has the exact same rights as the next person next to them. That also being said, your rights don't trample my rights. So at the end of the day, I am for any legislation that any fosters any version of hate or discrimination, not just about the LB, all those acronyms or all those letters. I'm also about anything that has to do with racial or religious aspects. It's disgusting, and it doesn't belong in this country. This country was founded on the idea that everyone has the same rights, and I don't even know how anybody can read the Constitution and read anything other than that. But that's my answer.
Thank you. The next question, back to the original first comment I had. This question comes from Wakamako. You have criticized your opponent, Andy Harris, as an ineffective career politician who has failed to address key issues like healthcare, gun violence, and economic inequality. Insert issue here. What specifically differentiates you from Andy Harris, and what motivates you to run for Congress?
Ooh, I mean, I think we don't have time for all that there, do we, sir? I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of things that differentiate me between me and Andy Harris. First and foremost, just like I said in my beginning speech, I said that I believe in being effective. So let's walk these through each one here, right? Sorry, my camera adjusted here. I'll walk you through each one. So the effective portion of it. Effective means that you go down there and you do something, right? I don't feel that voting no, because he does do something. It's called voting no every time, which is actually doing something. Voting no is actually doing something in return. The other part of that is I believe in being responsive. Part of being a representative in this country is that when someone wants to talk to you, I don't believe that I didn't tell you guys to limit this to anybody. Anybody in the world could have came and got on this today, and I could have been beat up from the beginning to end. But I did it because I believe in that's what a representative is willing to do. And you'll see me once I win this election. You'll see me every chance you get. When I'm not and when we're in session, I will be somewhere or somehow talking to people. So representing or being responsive is a part of being a representative. And at the end of the day, representing all of us. I don't surround myself by only people who agree to Blane Miller. One, that would probably be a very small crowd, unfortunately. But the other part of that is that I also believe in being around people who actually challenge me. I actually like when people challenge me, because at the end of the day, I end up learning something, and that I don't fear that and don't shy away from that. I can tell you that people that are on this call right now have questioned me out in the middle of Facebook and stuff, and I'm not shying away from them. I answer my questions the way I answer my questions. So that's the first and foremost. But what made me want to run for office? Well, I'll be honest. A year ago, I decided I was sitting around, and I know him. I know Andy Harris. I've been in places with him and been around him, and I can tell you that I don't like the way he talks to people. He's disrespectful, and one of the things that I find horribly about him that is that he as soon as you disagree with him on anything, he wants to argue with you automatically. I'm not that kind of a person. I'm going to sit back and listen and give you your chance. I agree that we can all disagree. That's a part of life. No one in this, probably no one on this call right now, and me and them are going to agree to every single thing. I told you I'm a moderate Democrat anyway. The main reason why I ran for office as a Democrat and why I believe in being a Democrat is because of women's rights and body autonomy, and also gay and lesbian rights. So for me, that was more important than any of the other things that I might have ever believed in my life. So that being said, that was kind of we needed somebody that's willing to stand up to him. He's a bully, and I don't like bullies. I don't like bullies at all. So, and I'm going to stand up to a bully when I have a chance. So that's really the what kind of motivated me. But again, it goes back to my military service. I love this country more than anything in this world, and I decided that I served my country for 8 years honorably, and the foundation that it gave me was the honor, courage, and commitment. And I have the honor, courage, and commitment to run for office, and I'm not afraid of it. And if I lose, I lose. I have a job. I'm not gonna wake up on November 6th and be like, oh, I'm gonna do it again, and I'll keep doing it until I win. So, did I give you all 3 points? I said effectiveness, responsive, and someone who represents all of us. That's the other part of it. I want to make sure I said someone who represents all of us. So if I didn't make that clear, that's important. That's important to me. Again, I don't think that it's about only having the people that are around you that are going to be the ones who tell you what you want to hear and all that stuff, or only agree with you. I want people to disagree with me. I kind of look forward to it. So
Thank you.
The next question actually comes from our Madam Chair, Sarah Gabian. Sarah.
Okay, great,
Well,
Sarah.
I was going to actually ask. I was going to ask about reproductive freedom, which when you and I have spoken, and you highlighted right now, is one of the major reasons you've run. It's obviously one of the major issues on the ballot across the country, so much so that Trump is reversing his stance in an awkward manner after bragging about getting Roe overturned. Can you speak to that issue and in specific to the kinds of decisions that are in front of Congress? I mean, as you know, the Supreme Court with Dobbs pushed it back down and said it needed to be at the state level. But there are movements to codify it at the congressional level. There's certainly actually an amendment in Maryland to put this in our state constitution, reproductive freedom. So could you speak to the kinds of measures you would support and like to see passed at the federal level?
Okay, well, first and foremost, as a man, I want to make sure that I make this part of it very clear. I don't believe I should have the right to be telling a woman what to do with her body. Okay, in that scenario, I have no choice. If I was to be dating someone and I got that person pregnant, I don't have a choice to have the baby or not have the baby. So I don't really have a choice in the matter anyway. So I shouldn't be really running my mouth about it. That being said, I also believe in body autonomy as a whole. So when I talk about women's reproductive rights, I talk about that as body autonomy as a whole. There's more to it than just abortion, which I don't even like saying that word. But like everything in this world, we have something, what I like to think is that every politician or every person who wants to be elected official, at least, because I don't consider myself a politician, should have 2 words in their repertoire, and that is compassion and compromise. And so, like anything else, I'm willing to always listen to all the sides. In the beginning, I can tell you, when they took from the federal aspect of it, from a constitutional aspect, I will tell you this: I have never said this, but I'm going to tell you how I thought at first. There are things that I believe that should be at the state level, but when the states don't act correctly or they don't act in the manner in which they should, and this being one of them, this is the time when we're going to need to have a federal ability to make sure that no woman's going to have to go down the back alley and do something that's not even healthy or anything like that. I think it's just about women's health more than it is anything, and about her mental health. Actually, it's more than just her body health; it's about her mental health. And I think that that's something that, in the beginning, I don't know that I was I thought there'd be more common sense to how people thought about this at the state level. And it's been proven when you look at places like Texas, Florida, and these places who are doing what I consider to be some of the most damning things in the world to a woman's right to choose. I feel now strongly about being able to have it at a federal level and being protected by, but it's going to take it's going to take a lot of work. It's not like this can now happen overnight, because it was brought to the Supreme Court, and they made a decision. So now there's a lot of hoops and things we have to jump through to get this back to being a federal rule in trying to make it. So I look forward to that, and I will stand shoulder to shoulder with anybody who wants to do it. So I do. That's something I believe strongly in, and it's not because it's a hot topic. It's long before I ever ran for office. So I believe that that's every woman should have a right to. It's between her and her doctor too. I think that's the other thing too. Nobody ever says that part. It's between her and her doctor. Nobody knows about my vasectomy that I had when I was 24, and I don't tell anybody about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's not something that we need. Right? I made that decision. What if they decide that was against the law suddenly? Then I'd have a problem, even more of a problem, right? So we need to again, common sense. This isn't, it's funny. This isn't rocket science stuff. This isn't like things that I got to have a whiteboard and and lots of equations. This is human stuff, and how people can treat each other is just utterly disgusting sometimes to me. But hopefully we get better with it as time goes on.
Thank you for that answer. Jared, I think we're not getting a lot of questions in the chat. I wonder, I want to encourage people on the on the call to come in.
We just got two, both from the office. That was sent to me directly. So one gave me their name, so I assume that means that's going to be okay. The first one did not. The first one in Cambridge is, how would you specifically protect the trans community? And then I'll follow up with the next question we have that actually does have a name.
Well, I mean, I think I've already answered that question. Maybe I didn't answer it that was specifically to trans. So again, when I ran for office for county executive, my opponent at the time, we had all the moms for liberty that were really beaten up about the school stuff and all these things like that. And I will say this, and this is me being as human as I can possibly be. I don't have an understanding of what a person who is trans is going through. So I can't sit here and go, oh, this is what they're thinking. This is what they're not thinking. I don't know. What I will tell you is, as I said at the beginning, rights don't have a name in front of them. There doesn't need to be black rights, women's rights. There just needs to be rights. And that needs to be championed across all levels of government. And so I don't have a specific, because I guess you'd have to give me a specific instance, and I don't necessarily know that that's even something that I would want to answer in the first place. I believe that people have rights, and those rights go across all facets of whatever category you want to label them in. So I don't. Again,
I didn't ask the question, but I can imagine on this and many issues, there are actual bills out there that are specific, right? There's all sorts of issues about bathrooms, or there's issues about who can compete in what sports. And while rights may be general, they do have to get pushed down to, as you said before, my right versus your right. So
sure.
Right to go into a bathroom where everybody is, chromosomally assigned, versus someone else's right to say, I feel like I'm this gender and I would like to use that bathroom.
Again, I think there's a common sense approach to it. I don't know that I have the. I would never want to suggest that I have all the answers to this. It's not something that it's so hard for me to really honestly wrap my brain around. If we're talking about the specific for trans, is because I don't really have an understanding. Just like I said about being, the same thing about abortion, right? I'm not a woman. I'm a man. So I don't necessarily know that I have the answer to that. I will, like I said, I will look at everything with compassion and compromise, and however that plays out, and whatever we're talking about, that's the best I can give you as an answer. I don't know how I feel about it. It's so funny. Today I decided I was like, I'm gonna go and get some statistical data in case this question is actually asked. And it'd be different if the country was like, 80% against and 20% for, right? It's so narrowly down the middle almost that it's so, it's like, it's a very, to me, it's one of those things that's a complex issue. And as a human, one of the things that I remember arguing about when I was running for county executive, because that had a lot more to do with the school situations than anything. Mm-hmm. All I said to like I said, I'm a parent. I've been a parent. I'm still a parent. I mean, you're always a parent, I guess, but he's a grown ass man now. But if my son was a trans or had that thought processes, how would I react as a person? I actually have a cousin who has a daughter that identifies as a man, And I think it's got to be hard. You love your kids. You're going to do whatever you want for your kids. You're always going to be a good parent. So you want them to have the same life that everybody else does. So it's got to be a difficult situation. I don't even pretend to have like I'm going to be the only person in the world that has the answers to this. I will use my heart, my mind, what the people of Maryland want, what's good for America, but at the same time using compassion and compromise, trying to make it the best situation I can. It's the best I can give you.
Thank you. Jared, you had another.
Yeah, so next question's from the office from Joy. She's somewhere in that picture. She said, "What is your position on Social Security and Medicare?"
Oh, this is my favorite one actually. This could take a couple minutes. So I think that we need to modernize. Well, first of all, Social Security is such a complex thing, and we've kind of as Congress has really misused the money. There's definitely instances throughout the history that they've taken money from that, and they've used it as their way of bankrolling things and doing things. So one, the first and foremost, I would want to make a law that no one can ever touch the money again. It's not for anybody uses, but what it's intended for. That's the first thing how I want to try to secure that. I'm not an economist by no stretch of imagination, but I will tell you that I know how to run a bank account. So that being said, as simple as that may be, I think it's something that's pretty simple as well. You spend money on this. If you took if we just use common sense in this, and you go by the national amount of money, how if you put into a 401k, it's like a 10% gain over the lifetime of it. Most of the people who put into that would have most of their money and then some. So we need to modernize the idea of how we do it. Most people can't live on $1,600 to $2,200 a year. The idea was originally, I believe, that your house would be paid off, you wouldn't have any bills, and that would only be the money that just had to subside you, right? Well, obviously, that's not the case anymore. We have parents and grandparents that are raising their grandkids. We have so many other situations that those things aren't working anymore, and we need to come up with the brightest people in this country and try to come up with a way that we modernize this to make it a more efficient and better system. I don't have those specific answers, but I will tell you the first thing I'm going to do is that I want to employ people that know more about this than I do and really get this under control, because I mean, it's not going to fail in 7 years. This whole, thing that it's going to fail in 7 years, it's going to fail in 10 years. It's not going to fail because people are still paying into it. And hopefully the workforce keeps going on and keeps paying into it. But there's going to come a point where, the rooster's going to come to crow and we're not going to be able to have the money there. So we got to figure out a way how now rip the Band-Aid off. Maybe the younger generation takes on the ability of, paying into it differently, or there's got to be a lot of different ways, but there got to be something that's not going to hurt everyone, right? You got to make it the best possible scenario that doesn't make the younger generation disenfranchised with it and then hurt the older generation who's trying to get ready to collect on. I'm 50. I'm still hoping I'm going to get some money when it comes time. You know what I'm saying? So, but I don't know that that's the case, right? So it's definitely a hot topic, and I'm sad that we don't talk about it more. Where we're talking about more other things, and it's funny how both presidents elect, not people that are running for office. They don't talk about that at all. They want to insult each other. I like specifics. I try to want to hear what they want to do, what's more important to them than yelling at each other and calling each other names, because that's the most infantile version of that anyway. So,
Thank you. We have 22 folks on the phone. Do any others have questions that haven't been raised that you'd like to bring up?
So we have 2 questions that I don't think have been raised, and we have about 8 minutes to get them answered. So the first one is talking about housing. This is from Judy from Dorchester. She said she does not support the idea of Kamala Harris's plan to build thousands of new homes due to the carbon footprint. She recognizes that there's a housing shortage. She says that she supports renovating old and repurposing unused buildings for housing. Would you push for such an idea? How do you feel about penalizing those who own multiple homes? So I guess the question here is, there's a housing shortage. What is your stance on how we address that?
well, I mean, I think most people in this country, at least me growing up, it was always your parents' idea for you to buy a house, right? Like get a house. It's an investment, da, 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 all those things, right? So I don't think it's a bad thing for people to have houses. I don't necessarily know that building a house becomes a carbon footprint problem. Again, I mean, I don't necessarily. I mean, we got to have housing for people. I think one of the hardest things is being able. Listen. Here's the thing. As a kid, my son's 29. Okay, he had a $85,000 loan for college. Right. He's got to figure out how he's going to pay the college, get a job that makes enough money, buy a house, get a car, and still go to work and have some food to eat. Right. We have a lot of problems in this country that have to do with how do we get this to go across the board. Right. I think that. Building we don't humongous houses. I like the idea of some of these bungalow ideas that people come up with. There's a lot of ways we can look at this. There's a lot of ways we can, but I don't know that. I don't know what Judy is it Judy, I believe that she said. I don't know what she's talking about in the sense of the carbon footprint. I mean, at what point does the carbon footprint trump people being able to live in a house? And I don't mean Trump like in Donald Trump. I mean like in the game spades, right? A Trump card. So what does it mean? At what point do we have? When do we come to a place where carbon footprint is as bad as having a house? I don't understand. Like I don't even really understand the question as much.
Maybe we ask her to clarify the question.
Yeah, make it more specific or something.
A suggestion that I think will help clarify it is, yes, I think everybody needs a house. There's a couple of issues is whether they need to have single family homes, which obviously have a larger footprint. And cost more money. I mean, there may be sort of the decisions within housing and how to get people housed. As we know, especially with the younger generation you just mentioned with your son, it's incredibly hard to find.
I mean, it's.
But what kinds of solutions are there that are also mindful of?
But I also think that TikTok and Instagram and stuff doesn't help that situation either. You see these kids running around in Ferraris and I don't know how these people are doing it because I know I work hard and I don't have a Ferrari. I can tell you that, and I don't have 4 homes. So I think we need to come back to what should be a beginner home, right? What's the beginner home? Like maybe a 2-bedroom little house that is in cluster homes, right, or something. My point being is that I don't know at what point do we say, okay, the carbon footprint problem should overtake a people problem. Where do you want people to live? In the woods? I don't know what you want me to do here.
I think it's balancing in the kinds of housing.
Sure, I mean, balance is everything. Right.
I mean, we should move on to another question. Sure. I'm not watching the chat unless Judy has come in with more details on that. I think we got the housing.
She has not, so I think we have time for about one more question, and I can get some of the other ones that are in here written down, and we can send over. And Blaine, if you want to respond,
absolutely. You can
get those to those people.
You can always send me an email, and I would answer each question the best I could. So,
thank you.
Go ahead, Jared. I'm sorry.
The last question. Oh no, you're good. Thank you for that. So the last question comes from the Dem HQ. And they said, in their belief, Dorchester schools are subpar. How can you come in as a member of Congress school systems, whether it be Dorchester, Talbot, Hartford? And then this is a two-parter. How you kind of brought up earlier this evening that Andy Harris doesn't bring money into the district. How will you work to bring money into our district?
Well, I mean, that's what a congressman's supposed to do, right? I mean, they're supposed to go in there and they're supposed to fight hard for that pork barrel or whatever term they use there, right? So if the history of that goes way back anyway, it's not even supposed to have junior congressmen have any of that. It's supposed to be all senior people are supposed to get that at one time. But my plan, as far as the school systems go, look, it's interesting when I talk to people about this. There's 3 ways out of poverty in this world, and that I believe, and this is what Blane Miller's beliefs are. 1, you use education, right? Education, you get yourself educated, you go to college, you work yourself out of that. Number 2, you join the military, which is a great version of what I decided to do because I was horrible in school. And number 3, you find a trade, right? Those 3 things, but they all kind of school-based, right? And I think one of the things that we need to do, I don't know what she's actually referencing in the sense of Dorchester schools being bad. I assume that they must be pretty bad, but is it the facilities? Is it the teachers? I'm not sure what she's going on, but
I'm going to say that on behalf of Dorchester, that it tends to be the output. So it's the test scores. It's not the input.
Okay.
So that's the reading scores, the math scores.
Yeah,
one
and
of the
that's one of the things that I said in
major
my
goals.
original speech is that one of the things I want to do is secure better teachers. Again, you can have the best teachers in the world, doesn't mean that those kids there are going to actually, learn. It just means that I want to give them the most opportunity of all. So I think we need to attract um, those brighter and again, nothing wrong with the teachers that are there. I don't. This isn't a slam against them at all. I'm saying like to bring talent. I don't know that people are rushing to go live in Dorchester. I don't know what the rate of people moving there. What I'm saying is that we have to find a way that we can maybe even retain the talent we have, the people that are already there. Um, I think there's a slippery slope here because at the end of the day, you can't make you can't make people go somewhere. But I have been told that that Dorchester. I think me and Sarah have actually talked about this. That the school system there is bad. So, um, you know, it's a tough situation. I don't have an answer for you like that. It's going to magically snap my fingers and say this is how it all gets fixed. I definitely think it starts with giving the kids the best of the best, right? Giving them the most opportunity. So, talented teachers, um, curriculums that work. I don't know that all the curriculums work these days. I tried to help my nephew do math one day, and I showed him a way to do it, and he said, "Uncle Wayne, that's the wrong way to do it." Mind you, I got the right answer, but it wasn't the right way. It wasn't the new math thing, right? So I was like, "Oh, long division. This is so simple. Watch this." But so again, I'm not a teacher. I do have massive amounts of respect for it, but I also believe it's one of the things that I would say, and many people get mad at me when I say this, but I'm going to say it today anyway, is that I think it starts with teachers and parents working together. And one of the things that we have here is that a lot of times we have some children that are not they don't have the greatest home life, right? So they go to school and they get the attention or what they need from school, right? So we need to have our teachers and parents work together. I'm all for the education system. I'm definitely not about getting rid of the education department as far as a cabinet post as I hear Donald Trump say quite often, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Because education, for me, and like I said earlier, is the way out of poverty. Most people who are born in poverty uh, end up achieving, being more successful in life when they have the better version of having education. And I think that's the number one way out of it. So that would be my answer. I'm sorry if I didn't give her all the things I could give her, but I definitely believe that I will work hard at it. I will definitely bring money back to the congressional district as a whole, not just Dorchester, but everybody. But also too, I will tell you this: one of the things after I win, getting in touch with me, like I give everybody my cell phone number. I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but everything, they all have my personal cell phone number. Every single person here right now can have my personal cell phone number. Call me on the phone. I'm not going to change it. I have to have that number. That's my company's number. It's the only number my company knows. So I'm not changing it tomorrow. So call me on the phone. And if I can, and trust me, anybody who's called me, I've gotten back to them. It might not be the same day, but I get them back to as fast as I can because trust me, I get about 25, 30 phone calls a day. So I definitely try to get back to them as fast as I can. So, I'm responsive. I would not be running on that as one of my three things that I believe that I'm bringing to the table differently than my opponent is that I believe in responsiveness. So
Thank you. I'm going to ask you on that to put your cell phone in the chat. I think, Sydney, you've been posting some things in the chat. If you could make sure we have, and I don't know, you probably have, but Blane Miller's Facebook and other information that we had reserved for the chat as well, and people can grab it there. Justin, I'm sorry, Jared, would you put everybody back in the group so that we can be a group as we wrap up? I invite anyone for any final comments. As we've tried to channel the questions you've asked, but if anyone has any final questions they want to ask, if not, I will move toward thanking Blane Miller and closing the meeting.
I would like to say one thing though. In the coming weeks, you're going to see a couple things. One, I have an interview on Sunday that I did last couple weeks ago that will be on WBAL. Me and one of the it's you just got to go to the WBL radio website and it's all about the Commitment 24 section. So it's a good interview that I had with I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but whatever the guy's name was. I'll be on C4 and Brian Neiman here soon in a couple days or so, a couple weeks or so. I have a bunch of things that I'm going to be at this, and what I'm going to do is just look for them on my Facebook posts, because I'm going to always try to post prior to the weekends when I can really get out there and do what I want to do. We got a watch party for on the 10th up in Hartford County, which is going to be really fun. Hopefully we get a big crowd. It's at the State Theater, which, I mean, I guess they're expecting a lot of people because they're actually renting out the theater. So there's going to be a lot of stuff coming. Please stay. And if there's something that you guys have, anything, if it's something where we get a good crowd and a diverse crowd too. I'm sorry, hold on one second, sorry. I really want you to understand, and I know this is hard for everybody to get wrapped around their head around. I have got to get independents and what I call soft Republicans to vote for me too, or I don't win this thing regardless. We can sit here all day long and have the greatest conversation in the world. Do we want Annie Harris gone and me elected, or do we want to just keep on having the same old thing happening? So to me, don't be afraid to invite your other friends, because that's the part that I think is equally as important. Yes, I want all the Democrats to vote for me, but at the end of the day, I do want also everybody to know that I don't want to ostracize anybody. We need those other votes, because that's how I win this election, and I think that's why he keeps winning. He's not winning the Democrat vote, I can tell you that. So, but yeah, just keep looking on my Facebook page. And
now let me follow up on that. First, I want to ask people to put their videos on so we can get a screenshot of the meeting. But in addition, Judy Wixted, if you would, we have an event, the Eastern Shore in Wacomico on next Sunday. Judy or Megan, can one of you describe that event? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Blaine's supposed to be there.
I'm coming to that before on
so a chance to meet him in our region.
Yep.
Judy?
Yep, I'll be there.
I just asked him to mute.
Hi.
So.
Can you guys hear me? I don't know if you want to start the video or not. I don't care. Whatever you guys want to do.
I would like everybody to show their videos for a picture.
Yeah, you know what? Too many videos on and people they start losing connection.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have a great day. It's the Democrats Unity Party on Sunday. We're going to be starting with doing canvasses in I think 8 or 9 out of the 10 counties on the shore. And you can find out all about how to sign up. Our chairman, Ken Ullman, is coming on the shore to knock doors with us. I don't know who he's bringing from the party with him, but he's bringing some other people from the party with him to help. And then we will be having a party at the Wacomico Youth and Civic Center. It will be featuring our beloved comptroller and oh my God, Blake. I was not ready, Sarah. So we'll be there with Brooke Learman, our comptroller. Should be a lot of fun. We've got a couple little surprises for people, and I hope everyone comes to have a good time. I will say eat lunch first, because what we're doing is snacks. This is just kind of a party to get together and talk and have some fun. So let's spread the joy.
So let me say that I've just dropped it in the chat for the Eastern Shore Day of Action this coming Sunday, that you can meet Blane Miller in person in Wacomico.
I'll be there, and I'll be there with signs. I'll have plenty of signs I can give out, so that I want to give every group, because my goal is to give, I think there's not more than 20 each when you get to the actual election day. I have at least 20 to 25 for each central committee, so that we can get them out on election day. The other thing is too, there's something going on the day before in the Democratic in Cecil County. There's a Fall Fest that I'll be at. And I also, that same day, I'll be at another thing in Havre de Grace, a Fall Fest in Havre de Grace up on the brewery. So it's gonna be, listen, every weekend's gonna be packed, and I'm gonna be at as many places as I can. I set myself after Labor Day, we're gonna go 100 mile an hour to the end. So
just to say that probably true of the other counties, that it would be great if we could get some literature. We are canvassing, as I said, even on the September 8th, but other than that, for the coordinated campaign, we're all out canvassing. We're passing out literature for our ticket. And we in Dorchester have a piece of literature which has your picture on it as part of our whole ticket, but we don't have anything from you. And we want to tell people more about you at the doors.
Okay.
If you can get that to us, and even possibly earlier than Sunday, but we'll pick it up from you on Sunday afternoon, if not before. Are there any other major announcements that Jared or anyone else needs to make. If not, I would like to.
I just have one real quick. Well, two real announcements real fast. Like Sarah mentioned earlier, Shore Progress is now. The Lower Shore Progressive Caucus is now Shore Progress, so we now cover the entire Eastern Shore. So folks who have been long wanting to see a progressive organization in Talbot, in Kent County, in Cecil and Caroline, so on and so forth. We now have an organization for you. Our meeting is going to be this Thursday night, both virtually and in person, at 6:30. And then the other thing I wanted to flag, on September 10th at 6 p.m., we are going to be doing a door knocking in Cambridge with the Dorchester Democratic Central Committee for Law Atkis, who's running for re-election to the Cambridge City Commission. She is running against a well-funded MAGA Republican who is trying to buy that seat. We need to make sure that we're protecting our good Democratic candidates, so we're building a bench so we don't get more future Andy Harrises in the future. So I hope you'll join us on the doors, join us making the calls, to help win this election.
And I've just put that link in the chat. If you can sign up for that canvassing, it's in the chat.
Don't worry, Jared. I'm going to win, so you won't have Andy Harris to worry about.
There you go.
Then I have one more pitch, which is that the Dorchester Democrats are on a roll. We've been doing a lot. We've scaled up tremendously, but it does take money. And we are trying to get some road signs right now, as all of you know. As you drive out Route 50 on the Eastern Shore, you are just deluged with Trump, Andy Harris, and help me here, Hogan signs. So we are trying to, it's probably going to cost us about $500 to $1,000 to buy the kinds of signs it takes to fight that. So we were grateful for contributions to the committee. I am throwing a link in the chat for that as well.
Okay.
So there you go. Then I think on behalf of all present, I would like to thank Mr. Miller for his time tonight. Additionally, I am grateful to Joy Gaddy and Jim Six, who have hosted the Dorchester Dems watch party, to Jared and to Sydney for helping with designing and flowing the questions and information throughout the meeting, and to all of the participants who have showed up and keen to learn about Blane Miller and keen to take on Andy Harris in the upcoming election.
Thank you again, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was very nice. All the questions were respectful. I had a great time tonight. Definitely was one of those better meetings for me. So
it could be tougher, but there you go. Just thank you to everybody. Remember that every single action that you can do to get people to the polls is greatly appreciated. We do have an issue of Democratic turnout, and talk to us, talk to Blane, talk to Shore Progress on ways that we can help mobilize our vote. And with that, everyone, thank you very much and have a good evening.
thank you.